We all know that Football Manager is a really addicting game, right? But do you know why? Okay, I'll get the obvious part out of the way first. The actual in-game Football Manager experience can be incredibly immersive and also very frustrating. But that really depends on how deeply immersed you are in your own save.
Fire deep towards the back post. That is a gem! An absolute gem!
And the truth, unfortunately, is that you're probably spending most of your time in your save answering your email, or doing boring things like sorting through staff members, or trying to piece together a tactic not knowing if it's going to work or not. That's the thing about Football Manager. Sure, it's an addicting game, one that will suck you in and won't let you go if you give it the chance. But it's not a normal addicting game. It doesn't have the characteristics that we usually see with addicting video games. A few years ago, I got on one of those anti-gaming kicks and I tried to force myself to stop playing. I spent some time reading what most self-appointed experts had to say online about video games and addiction, things like how dopamine pathways are formed in the brain and so on. But the thing that I found interesting is that a lot of these descriptions didn't seem to apply to Football Manager. I mean, they had nothing to do with my Football Manager experience at all. The truth is that games like, say, League of Legends contain attractive elements that Football Manager just doesn't have. The thing is that at least I'm not really that attracted to the sights or the sounds of Football Manager. Maybe you feel the same way. I mean, the 3D match engine is nice, I guess, but it feels a couple of decades out of date. The sounds really don't drag me in. And you know, most of my time is spent in the virtual spreadsheet that's disguised as an email inbox that the game keeps you locked up in. There aren't any satisfying sound effects or any great in-game rewards that keep you going. You know, even with the Mets FM sound pack, something as satisfying as scoring a goal still feels a little bit stale. It can be fun to watch replays of goals, I suppose, but there's nothing about this experience that makes me feel addicted. Even if you win a trophy, the reward scenes you see aren't really all that impressive. You don't see the colors and animations that you see in the notoriously addicting games, the ones that all the experts tell you are designed to get you hooked. And you know, the really crazy part about this is that earlier versions of Football Manager and Championship Manager were even worse in terms of graphics. And yet it seems that those games were just as habit-forming and as addicting as Football Manager 2024 is today. Championship Manager 2 is probably the first game of the series that was truly habit-forming. Back in October 1993, PC Zone magazine noted in particular just how addicting this version of the game was. When you look for the addictive qualities of the game, however, you get some really strange insights, such as the game's interface. That interface consisted basically of the same searching and sorting screens that we see now, all really basic spreadsheet stuff. Anyway, this review raved on and on about the gameplay. But of course, this was years before the 2D match engine with the dots was a thing. It was basically a text-based game. And yet even modern reviewers talk about just how addicting and time-consuming this game was. This critical German language review from late 1995 asks how in the world this game could have sold more copies than the likes of Command & Conquer, since it was really nothing but a glorified spreadsheet. And on I could go. It's been this way for decades. Sure, the graphics are a bit better now than they were in 1993, but the core gameplay is basically the same, so why do we get so hooked? Well, this old Scottish article might give you an idea. In theory, you could take almost any team on a journey to glory. That's even more true these days with the vast numbers of countries and leagues that are available. Of course, the truth is that the gameplay is exactly the same no matter which country you select. The only real differences are your team's finances and the sort of players that you can attract. And even then, you really need to use your imagination to make the game come alive. There are all these half-baked ideas in the game, stuff like languages that you learn, for example, stuff that doesn't really matter except in your own mind. It really is the sort of game where you make the immersion. It's really a game that is addicting despite itself. In my opinion, the statistical side of the game doesn't really make it habit-forming, although it is certainly impressive. You see, I play a lot of statistical sports sims that look like this, sims that are focused on reproducing real-life stats, often at the expense of actually immersive gameplay. Some have graphical interfaces, but the majority don't. And a lot of these games aren't just based on card and dice games, they literally are card and dice games translated directly to the screen. Now, Football Manager's in-game experience looks a lot better than those kinds of games. However, these types of sports sims all have one big thing in common. You really need to use your imagination to get the game to come alive. Really, when you start a new Football Manager save, it takes a while to really get into it. Unless you already know a lot about the team that you chose, chances are that you won't really know much about the players at all. Everybody will seem strange and unusual to you. Unless you put enough time into the save at the beginning to help it really come alive, you'll likely find yourself giving up at the beginning. And even the best graphics won't help you out there. I've had numerous saves fall flat for me over the years, usually because I didn't have a real connection with what was going on. In fact, I've learned the hard way that you really want to stay away from cheating and getting all the best players on your team. It might make you feel good in the short term, but it will make the save feel boring and unengaging in the long run. The thing that makes Football Manager different from all the other addicting games is that winning all the time actually makes this game less addicting. It's not the winning that gets you hooked, believe it or not, it's the losing. Actually, real football is the same way. For example, England's failure to qualify for the World Cup in 1974 sure was frustrating. But this was the sort of frustration with victory within sight that makes you want to go back to watch more, to try to will the team to victory.
And if he gets a break on McFarlane, there could be trouble here.
Football Manager works the same way.
Crisp and sharp. Well seen. There's a goal!
If you win every match and wind up winning all the trophies right away, you'll never really get yourself hooked. It's when you get close but you lose that you really feel immersed. And there's nothing quite like getting really close one season only to slide down the charts the next season and feel frustrated that you can't get that magic back. That's when you'll start sacrificing your sleep to play the game. Anyway, it's a peculiar type of addiction, one that is almost entirely created by the player. And I guess it shows that video game immersion is not just about sights and sounds. Now, it's about the feelings that it stirs up in those who play the games. And maybe that's the reason why we keep coming back to Football Manager year after year, no matter how foolish Sports Interactive's decisions are.